Hey guys, Dr. Shook here, and it's another sauna session. In this session, what I'd like to talk to you guys about are acid-suppressing medications called proton pump inhibitors and your Hashimoto's and thyroid. Okay, so this could really relate to Hashimoto's. This also relates to thyroid dysfunction, and this could also relate to any autoimmune condition, so including Graves or just any autoimmune condition in general. One of the things that I'll commonly find on a history, when I'm taking a history, I'm discussing the signs and symptoms that the person's having when they have a chronic health condition, whether it be Hashimoto's, autoimmunity, Graves, or thyroid-related symptoms, is you'll find that people are very commonly having issues with heartburn, and most of them have some kind of prescription like a proton pump inhibitor, which suppresses acid production to help them with those symptoms. If you've seen some of my other videos, you will know, and I can tell you this very briefly, that the number one cause of heartburn is actually low stomach acidity. That you may have enough quantity of acid, but it's not acidic enough. Okay, so what happens is the food sits there, and as the stomach churns and breaks down the food, it regurgitates up into your throat and your esophagus because the acidity is not high enough, and the acidity triggers the contraction and tightening of a muscular sphincter to make it smaller and tight at the bottom of the esophagus, top of the stomach. Okay, so with a lower stomach acidity, you will have poor reflexive contraction of that muscle, and then when it churns, you can regurgitate it. Okay, so that's the main cause of like low stomach acidity or of heartburn, is that there's actually low stomach acidity and you regurgitate the acid. Now, what I want to talk about is low stomach acidity. Like, why is the stomach acidity low? There's a lot of different reasons that can be, but let me share with you some of the consequences of low stomach acidity. You think about your digestive tract, okay? If we talk about the stomach, below the stomach, you've got the small intestine, and the small intestine turns into the large intestine, okay? So I will tell you this, everything below the stomach digestive process it's so critical that you have adequate stomach acidity, because it helps to break down the food. It creates that reflex where it tightens up the sphincter at the top of the stomach, so you don't have this reflux and heartburn. And then whenever the acid concentrates enough at the bottom portion of the stomach, it actually causes the sphincter to open and let the acid into the first part of the small intestine. Now, this is really important that you have adequate acidity here, because if you don't have enough acidity, then you'll have poor enzyme release from your pancreas and from your gallbladder, because they sit right there, and the gallbladder will contract and release the bile and bile salts, which help you to emulsify fats, which means break down the fats and absorb fats. The pancreas will release its enzymes, which will help you break down the other components of the food. And if you have poor stomach acidity, then you may have a very weak release because they're not stimulated due to low acidity. Okay, so if the acidity is not high enough, think about that for a minute. You could be disrupting, I'm just going to tell you, you can disrupt the entire digestive process below, everything. Okay, because if you start off with insufficiency of release of these enzymes, then you're going to create a lot of problems. So, you have to have adequate acidity to get proper release. If you don't have adequate acidity, then the food that's churning in the stomach as it moves in the small intestine won't have a thorough mix of enzymes, so it will digest poorly. Okay, so you can have malabsorption or poor absorption of nutrients because it's not being broken down thoroughly. The other thing is that those enzymes help to break down the food proteins. If the food proteins aren't broken down into all their individual pieces, which are called amino acids, then those food proteins can become inflammatory. Remember, I've talked to you about leaky gut and intestinal permeability, and that you can react. The drivers of autoimmunity are primarily three things. It's going to be partial digested food proteins. They call them food peptides, right? So the food breaks down, but it's not completely broken down, and those food proteins or peptides leak into the bloodstream and trigger an immune response. The enzymes help to break down those food proteins completely into these individual pieces called amino acids. Okay, if you don't have good enzyme function, then that's one of the problems that can cause you to have perpetuated and exacerbated or flared up autoimmunities, because you have low stomach acidity, so you have poor release of enzymes. You have poor release of enzymes, you don't break down the food thoroughly, and then the food leaks through the intestinal wall and causes this immune reactivity, driving autoimmunity, all because of stomach acidity being low, right? So you have this poor protein digestion. You also, let's say you eat something that has like a parasite egg in it, right? Like you have some vegetables or something and there's a parasite egg in there. That's not unreasonable at all. Vegetables and whatnot are raised in the dirt, so you can have that. And And so your acidity is also protective against parasites. So maybe you eat a parasite because the acidity is too low, the egg survives and it takes hold and you have parasites. You actually have a parasitic infection as a result of not having enough stomach acid and it not being protective, right? Because if it was higher acidity, maybe it would destroy the egg. So it can also, what you'll see is you can have poor absorption. If you don't have enough acid, you can have poor absorption of iron, which is incredibly important, right? To have proteins, to manufacture proteins. Your protein manufacturing is iron dependent. You have poor absorption of B12. And if you have poor absorption of B12, the interesting thing there is that low B12 absorption can lead to low stomach acidity. So then you have this self-perpetuating problem, right? You had low acidity. You take a proton pump inhibitor, you lower your acidity further. You now don't absorb iron and B12. You need B12 to create more acidity. So now you're actually promoting lower acidity. So how do you break and interrupt that cycle? Right? Well, you got to do it the right way, but there's not a simple answer for that that's going to be specific to every one of you. We find that changing diet and things significantly can make huge differences there. And then there's proton pump inhibitors. You can sometimes transition into other types of antacids that aren't PPIs and that don't create a rebound effect. That's getting a little too detailed. I want to finish my thought here with just the digestive tract below. So all these problems start to happen. Poor gallbladder release of enzymes, poor pancreatic release of enzymes, malabsorption. You have to have acidity in your gut to help with the production to help encourage the proper type of bacterial growth. Okay, so we talk a lot about, or you might have heard about the microbiome, which is the intestinal tract diversity, the bacterial diversity in the intestinal tract. Without stomach acidity, you won't have as good of diversity. You won't have proper manufacturing of certain vitamins and minerals that a lot of those bacteria produce. You'll have the greater likelihood of not having adequate short chain fatty acids, which are these byproducts of bacterial metabolism in the GI tract, and those short chain fatty acids help with the nourishing and healing of the gut wall. So if you have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, that's pretty important that you have adequate short chain fats. All these things can happen, and if you don't have adequate acidity, then you can have problems with having intestinal sulfatase, which is something, if you've watched any of my thyroid videos, you know that 20% of your T4 gets converted in the gut to T3, and that's dependent upon intestinal sulfatase. So all these things, right, you can go track them back. We can go further downstream, like we can talk about inflammatory chemicals like homocysteine and how they'll elevate with deficiencies or improper or poor use of B vitamins. Right, poor use of B vitamins, poor absorption of B vitamins can cause homocysteine, which is an inflammatory marker, to elevate. And so you can trace all that back sometimes to stomach acidity. Now, you got to ask, well, why do I have low stomach acidity, right? So there's a lot of different reasons for that too. I mean, H. pylori, a bacterial infection, can cause it. You can have autoimmunity against the cells that produce the stomach acidity. You can, with age, you'll start to decrease stomach acid production. There are a lot of potential problems with stomach acidity. So what you have to do is there's typically not one thing that I can tell anyone to do. Like, go do this, take this supplement. That's a very simplified approach that I wish were true. That is not the case. I'm just going to tell you, in most situations, it's not a miracle thing that someone does. They take one thing and then it helps them. Like, people ask me about supplements. Well, I don't like recommending generic supplements. And the reason I don't like recommending generic supplements is because what good is that going to do you? I mean, you're a lot of people are going to go out and spend a lot of money on supplementation, and it might not be the best thing for them. So, you want to try to be as specific as possible. Changing diet's a really good place to start with this. We find that whenever we put people on dietary programs, like we've got a dietary program, you guys may have heard me mention it before, it's the 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program. And it's for Hashimoto's, but it's also for people that are autoimmune. If you have any autoimmune condition, it'll be perfect for you. And really, if it's a good place to start for people that have blood sugar problems, that have inflammation, that have digestive problems. But I call it the 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program because it's dietary plus it's lifestyle. And I talk a lot about Hashimoto's because that's the number one thing I see in my office, because it's the number one autoimmune condition in the United States. it is a huge, huge problem. And that's what I see the most. But the program that I put together, we've used that program clinically, and we've tweaked it, and we've learned and added to it and modified it over the years, and we've just found that it's the perfect place for a lot of people to start. So I created this program that's online, it's web-based, it's video-based, it's simple. We try to help you get organized so you can understand how to incorporate dietary and lifestyle changes into your life. Then we give you dietary approach to take, including meal plans and some recipes. We have you do that. It's a 6-week program. 2 weeks you get organized, 4 weeks you implement the dietary approach, and then you reassess yourself at the end of 4 weeks. And we have a private Facebook support group and everything for that. And that's a really important thing because, whenever people ask me, like, what do I do? Well, start with food. Start with food. Start with diet and lifestyle. Don't start with a huge handful of supplements and go to the store and come back with 50 supplements, because that's not where you need to start in most cases. Okay, I'm going to tell you that where you need to start is with a sound dietary approach that's overall tends to be good for decreasing inflammation, supporting blood sugar, supporting gut health, and dampening autoimmunity if it's present. Okay, that's where you should start in most cases. I'm just going to tell you that's where people get the most benefit, not with a huge bag of supplements. Everyone's looking for, because I was raised in this medicine cabinet. I tell people I was raised in this in a medicine cabinet household where anytime I had a sniffle, it was like, what do you take? My mom would have, and we'd look in the medicine cabinet. I'm not an advocate of that. I'm actually very anti-medicine cabinets. I think that the body has everything it needs to be healthy if we can give it what it needs and get the things out of it that are causing it to be sick. And I think there's a time and place for everything. But I just want you to know that, I think that it was designed to be perfect, right? We don't even understand. We can't make things live. The body is living. The body heals your hand. You cut it, what happens? You just wait. It stops bleeding, it clots, it scabs. If you had enough time, you'd see it heal, the scab fall off, and your hand would be repaired. We don't know how to do that. That's because we don't understand the body enough. So why don't we work with it rather than just work against it? Okay, I don't know. I've gone on way too long, but I want to share with you guys this really important concept, and just let you know that if you have any questions, let us know. Post them below. If you guys are interested in our 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program, post just say, hey, I'd like a link to the program. We'll post it for you. If not, I really appreciate you guys being here, and I hope that this information on stomach acidity has helped to kind of expand your mind and realize that everything's connected, right? If you need anything, let us know. Give us a call. If have any questions, just request below. If you're not a part of our Greater Hickory Thyroid Support Group, you should get in there and check it out. We've got tons of information, lots of people trying to improve their health and their life. So just join if you want to. You can search on Facebook if you're over there. But I really appreciate you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming here and listening to me go for 13 minutes on stomach acidity and how it affects your health. But I appreciate you, and have a wonderful day.